In the news tonight, crop over climaxes with the creativity, color, and revelry of Grand Kadooment. Thousands line the streets to take in the Kadooment spectacle.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom. Thank you so much for tuning in. And our top story tonight, thousands of revelers in colorful, creative costumes danced along the new designated route for the crop over climax that is the Flow Grand Kadooment. Despite a delayed start, officials expected the day to end on a high. Sharika Griffith reports.
There were several changes to this year's crop over climax, with Grand Kadooment starting from a new location, the helipad car park in Bridgetown. Originally slated to start at 9 a.m., Chief Executive Officer of the National Cultural Foundation, Carol Roberts, announced a 2-hour delay after consultations with officials and stakeholders.
We have reached consensus that the official start of today's Flow Grand Kadooment Parade will be 11 a.m.
They actually started a bit earlier, with a Walk Holy band leading the parade as is customary. Minister in the Prime Minister's office with responsibility for culture, Senator Dr. Chantal Munro-Knight, was happy with the climax of the festival's golden anniversary.
Well, I think for the most part we've had some really, really good highs. I think there's some things that we can reflect on. But I think today especially what I'm seeing is Bajans coming out, lining the streets. I've seen people having a good time, for their usual last flat jump. So I think we're really going to end this festival on a high. This year, 50 years.
She wants Barbadians to give the new route a chance.
I think we have the perfect blend, 1, in terms of safety, 2, in terms of being able to give us a spectacle, and then 3, an adequate jump, for the revelers. So I think we've got a perfect mix. I'm really hoping people give it a chance, give it an opportunity to settle, and then we'll see. But I do want to say again, that this wasn't something that the NCF decided or the government decided. We really sat down with the stakeholders and came up with this particular route.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Tourism Marketing Incorporated, Andrea Franklin, was among those playing mass. She believes the festival will help to boost the tourism industry.
We did well. I mean, in terms of our numbers, we've been pacing ahead for most of the year, and August certainly is. So we are happy to see the people coming into the island for the festival.
And veteran band leader Betty West was happy to be back on the road as she prepares to bow out in another couple of years.
There was a lot of challenges, but I'm here. I'm doing my best, and I want my people to enjoy themselves thoroughly. I want to do this for the next 2 years, which it would be 35 years. And believe me, I wasn't born in Barbados, Guadeloupe, but I live here all my life. I consider myself a Barbadian. I love Barbados. I love everything about this island.
This year's route ended at Kensington Oval. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
And mixed feelings about the new Kadooment route, but bands seem to be willing to give it a chance. Trafford Thorpe tells us more.
Assistant band manager of Fifth Element, Erskine Small, is not yet convinced the route change has been a good move. He prefers the old route. He adds that the later-than-planned start to the festivities did not work in their favour, but they're prepared to give the new route a chance.
I got my little doubts about it, but I try to wait and see. Because you got to try something sometimes, but I got my little doubts in it.
How's the day going?
So far, it ain't looking good. We're really far behind. It ain't really looking good, but we'll see how that goes too.
The late start caused this?
I guess so. And then you mix it up in times where they tell you 10 o'clock, and then it come back to 11 o'clock. So the delay caused now that the bigger bands already pushed forward in front also.
He says the conflicting information created some challenges relating to providing for band members.
Just that we have our crowd to feed, so it's like we're all out here and they're all down there, so we try to get closer to them that we can feed them because it was away for a length of time.
Bar manager at Aura Experience, Anthony Boxall, says things were going great for them. According to him, they were ahead of schedule and hoping to reach the Mighty Griner Highway before nightfall.
My team are running a little bit in front, which is good. So we're going to get on these streets and on Spring Garden Highway, hopefully before the night goes in.
When you get to the highway, what are you going to be doing?
Partying, drinking, and enjoying the rest of the day for Crop Over 2024.
Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
1,000 lined the streets to enjoy Barbados' largest spectacle as hundreds of revelers christened the new route. The spectacular daytime street parade was a fitting way to Climax Crop Over 50. Anesta Henry has that report.
Despite the long wait to see the Kadooment bands on parade and the dose of heavy showers, the thousands that gathered along the new Floor Grand Kadooment route enjoyed the merriment of the day. While soaking up the music, dancing and appreciating the kaleidoscope of colors, locals and visitors were happy to experience the sights and sounds of Kadooment 2024. CBC News captured some of those sights and memories. 74-year-old Marva Williams, who was caught with her hands in the air and moving her way, says on the road enjoying the music and spectacle is just where she wanted to be.
I'm 74 and I was coming from Denver Small and I'm enjoying it. I'm glad I live to see this age too and enjoy it too. I hope everybody enjoys this ad.
Visitor Jody Faulkner says she is pleased that she and her family, who arrived on the island yesterday, touched down just in time to take in the cultural event.
Just the people, the atmosphere, everything's just been amazing. So yeah, having a really good time.
Barbadian national Cora Robinson, who lives in New York, says there was no way she would have missed Crop Over 50.
I'm enjoying myself, and this is 10 years of me coming back and enjoying the festival. I was here for the 40th and I had to make it for the 50th. And every year I've been coming back since then.
And there was definitely no shortage of food and drinks on sale. Vendor Renee Cumberbatch says sales were good.
Sales is going very good, and there's many years now that it didn't come this road. So we feel very good about it.
And representatives and volunteers with the rebranded National Wellbeing and HIV Commission were on the road engaging in the agency's annual condom distribution. Acting Director Lynn Armstrong says the aim is to encourage revelers to have safe sex while partying.
But we don't only do condoms, we also do HIV messaging. So our DJs have been sensitized, and I have about 15 messages that they will be interspersing among the popular calypsos. So this is not, we are not in competition. We are here to deliver a serious message that HIV, according to our minister, is still very much real. It is still here, and it is something that we still have to address.
The National Wellbeing and HIV Commission distributed approximately 10,000 condoms to revelers and spectators. Anesta Henry, CBC News.
Thanks, Anesta. It was a relatively quiet day for local law enforcement as police reported an incident-free Grand Kadooment. This information was shared by Police Communications and Public Affairs Officer Inspector Rodney Innes, and he's hopeful the good behavior continues beyond today. And coming up, a call to make Crop Over even bigger and better. Stay with us. Crop Over has grown by leaps and bounds this year, and with the 50th anniversary climaxing, one government official is urging stakeholders to make 2025 just as big. CBC News caught up with the Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs at the popular breakfast fete Mimosa, and Rochelle Agard filed this report.
With each year, the Crop Over Festival has gotten bigger and better. And as the festival marks its 50th anniversary, events like the popular breakfast fete Mimosa have been working to give patrons a better experience. One of the founders, Kareem Husbands, says they've gone back to the drawing board after some challenges last year.
We feel like we've gotten those issues corrected, and we feel like we've optimized everything we can do as an event to make this successful, to make sure our patrons have the amazing time that they always tend to have when they come to our event.
Meanwhile, Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Kirk Humphrey, a regular attendee to the event, says stakeholders at every level have played integral roles in the celebrations for the Golden Jubilee.
I think Crop Over makes a significant contribution to the economy of Barbados and also to the way people feel. I think Barbadians feel good. It's almost like Christmas in July and August. So happy Crop Over Barbados, much love, and let's make it safe and 2025 bigger and safer.
Similarly, Managing Director of Music and Echo Supplies Limited, Deepu Pajwani, says reaching the milestone is a blessing.
Crop over the years has evolved so much as it's really a big festival. It really started off when I was years growing up, 35 years ago and 30 years ago, crop over was very small and it was more of a local thing. Now crop over has become an international festival. 50 years, the whole world is watching, and crop over is amazing. Come and feel the vibes.
Rachel Agard, CBC News.
The rescheduled Soca 5.0, which ended prematurely last night, will now be held tomorrow night. Confirmation of this from the National Cultural Foundation. The National Botanical Gardens remains the venue, and the show will be held at 8 p.m. All tickets remain valid, and refunds are being offered to patrons if that is their preference. Less than 2 hours after the 7 p.m. start of the show last night, it came to a halt. This followed a weather update from the Barbados Meteorological Services, which warned of a severe thunderstorm watch. And coming up on Newsnight is the weekend sports.
Good evening with Sports Night. I'm Mark Seal. Top Barbados quarter miler Sade Williams is through to the women's 400-meter semifinals at the Paris Olympic Games. Competing this morning at the Stade de France in the first round heats, Williams was third in Heat 4 to be an automatic qualifier for the semis and to avoid tomorrow's repechage. She was timed at an easy 50.45 seconds. Now, the women's 400-meter semifinals are set for Wednesday at 8:45 a.m. Barbados time. It'll be live on CBC TV8. Moving on now to cricket, where the Guyana Cricket Board has won its case in the High Court of Guyana, challenging the election of Azim Bazarath as Vice President of Cricket West Indies. The case was brought against Cricket West Indies, Inc., Bazarath, and the election's returning officer, Gregory Nichols. Through counsel, the respondents contended that the court was without jurisdiction to hear the matter and that disputes of this nature should be resolved through arbitration. However, the court decided that it did have jurisdiction and granted the orders sought by the GCB. CWI plans to immediately file an appeal. Now, the election of Bazarath as CWI Vice President was held at the 24th Annual General Meeting in Antigua on March 25th last year. And now we're moving on now to road tennis, where Madeline Blunt and Emar Edwards are the women and men's champions, respectively, of the Colombo Community Road Tennis Tournament. CBC's Anne-Marie Burke reports on the finals, which were held at the Emancipation Village in Haggett Hall.
The women's finals featured two seasoned players in Madeline Blunt and Rachel Smith, and it was Blunt facing the screen who took early command of the matchup. We saw some long rallies, but Smith hits out of court here, and Blunt gets the point. Blunt with the serve, Smith returns, and this rally is testimony of the quality of this final. Both women keeping the play going. Smith coming to the net to deliver a soft return, but Blunt responds with a good backhand as both were going shot for shot before Blunt said enough is enough and put a bit more power behind the return to beat Smith to her left. And while I thought Smith could have pressed harder to deliver more kills in the game, she did gain some points by forcing Blunt to respond with too much pressure to go out of court to her advantage. And while it was not a walk in the park as the rallies were long, it was Blunt who would claim the first game at 21-18. The tables were turned in the second as Smith, now facing the screen, claimed straight to the upper hand and had Blunt really working hard to keep up, hitting the ball all over the court before switching up to sweetly drive down the line. Blunt was very not in tune like in the first game as Smith kept the pressure on, so much so she held Blunt to 14 with this unforced error. And from there it was a Smith show as she totally shut out Blunt. Smith was in her element and delivered the blows to take the second game at 21-14. And with things leveled, both ladies came hard in the decisive third game. It was a fight from the first serve with the agility and technique on full display before Smith claimed this one timed and placed well. You could see on Smith's face she meant business and was not easing up in delivering the lethal shots. But in the grand scheme of things, Blunt turned on the heat in the latter part of the encounter and maintained her calm and easy approach and had Smith chipping out. Smith had no response here. And this is where it was won. Blunt gave a match point and Smith comes up short. Blunt, the women's champion, the final game won at 21-12. The men's final was not as competitive as Emar Edwards backing the screen got the better of Shaquem Nurse in straight games, taking the first at 21-19, and in this second one, frustrating Nurse to also be in early command. But Nurse was not going to sit back and just take it and had Edwards on his toes, the two going shot for shot, before Nurse delivered his signature down the line play with the lagging pose. When Nurse gets in the groove, he takes no prisoners, and where Edwards creates the opening, you sure bet Nurse will capitalize. But what beats Nurse at times is his attitude, and having fallen behind, he was getting frustrated, and with every error, Edwards extended that lead. At this stage, Edwards was at match point. Nurse served, but Edwards sent it into the net, giving Nurse a slim glimmer of hope. The score now 20-11. And here's where it was won by Edwards. Nurse goes too long out of court. Emar Edwards, the winner of the men's title for the Colombo Community Road Tennis Tournament.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
Well, that's our news for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good night.